Good morning. My name is Cynthia Green. I am from Alaska, originally Bristol Bay. There, that lighting is better there. Today, I would like to talk about thinking on purpose. It's a new day and choosing. And when you're choosing, it does take time. I'm trying to learn how to set my settings. I have been studying on how to choose from the Bible that says, choose life or death. I have an issue with my lighting reflecting on my glasses. But I was watching a podcast by Mel Robbins, and her guest was, I needed inspiration because I'm having a hard time inspiring myself because I've had this throat thing and I've been kind of doing the thing, and it's been a while. Actually, ever since I've been thinking of doing a podcast on YouTube. So it's interesting how that is evolving. Well, today I've done a podcast on how to think on purpose, choosing your outcome that you desire. It is by choice. We think that we're not choosing, but lack of thought creates a platform of you going with the flow. For instance, when you think that I will, there, that's better over here. Hold on. There, that's less of a glow feedback on my monitor. What I'm trying to get to is the when going through your life, we have every day the opportunity to perceive that it is a new day and we get to choose what we can do and decide on and live that instead of going with the flow. What I mean by that is the show that I was watching was with a guest named Dr. Todd Rose, and he was saying that in their research, they were researching how people have this illusion of making decisions in their life thinking that the other person wants it this way. And so they continue doing it this way because they assumed that it was what the other person wanted. For instance, he was telling about his grandparents and how he would spend one night a month and he was able to be himself and tell anything that was on his mind to his grandmother. And he enjoyed that immensely because he was able to put in dialogue the who he was. He was growing, and in that growth, in that dialogue, he felt safe to think how he is, what his likes were evolving and so forth. And he enjoyed the bologna sandwich. They weren't rich or anything. And he went on to say it was really nice. And then for some reason they wanted to go to Sizzler, and he did not like other people, looking at him. For some reason the young boys seem to be that. And for 6 years they would go to Sizzlers. And then when his grandmother was dying, he talked with her and she said, we went to Sizzlers because we thought you enjoyed it. And here he wanted to stay home and have his bologna sandwich and enjoy playing Yahtzee and talking, discussing. That's the kind of grandparents that I wanted when I was growing up. But what does this have to do with purpose in our life? What does this have to do with choosing in our life? Well, he was talking about the illusion of what we get to choose, this thinking that is, on the other person. When we compromise ourselves, that it's not our truth, and we go and assume that it's what the other person wants, and then we go ahead and do it like they thought, actually, they just went along with it because they thought that was what you wanted. And that went on for years. And so what I'm saying is, when God says, "Behold, I have made a new day," can you not perceive it? When we're doing something new, it is something that we decide, look at today, and not create a life thinking on somebody else's terms of what they think success is, what they think how community is. It is a very personal choice, and it's something that sometimes we don't face our truth of how we process anything. And so we process it thinking that it is truth when in reality we are following the crowd. They think success is this and this and this. And I'm in a group and they want it done this way. And so I'm going to follow. We're afraid to raise our hand and say, why not this and this and this? A lot of the time we become miserable and we become bitter, thinking that, oh, I did it for them. And here they thought they were doing it for you. And because there was no communication, things get misconstrued and feelings get hurt and everything. So I think that was the basic illusion process that they were going through. Communication is important to yourself and to others that you love. Let it be positive in letting them say, rather than letting it continue as things were. A new day is a new day. Choose life. Get to learn things that help communicate joy. Introduce joy in the life rather than assuming and just going and say it is bad manners to disrupt or to disengage or to say it's not good. And Mel Robbins was saying that she decided she was going through menopause. She's going to cut alcohol off for the weekdays. And then she went to lunch to this restaurant, and her colleague or friend was saying, I'm having a glass of wine. Would you like one? All of a sudden, she found herself having a glass of wine. And here she was just going with the flow. And the research Dr. Todd was saying was that of all the assessments that, personal, individual questions that they presented to each person, saying this is what uh, the majority said that they liked. And so it has to do with a reward response we have in our brain and our error trigger. That's what he said. So we create, if we want to belong in a group, and it's instinctual. It's in our makeup, how we are as a whole, that we want to belong in a group because that's survival, and we want to be in a tribe or a community. It helps you to withstand better when you have support. And one of the reasons why I'm down here in Washington is because of support for family. And it is a heritage, traditional culture. And so when I decided to listen to my mom and moved, and I've been here since. So we make these decisions, and it was prayerfully made to, because it says to honor your parents. And it was hard initially, it was difficult, but this is how we make our life decisions. And it's hard to go against, it is hard to follow that decision that you made, and just to fit in, you allow things to happen, say yes, okay. All of a sudden you're doing things that you made up your mind earlier privately not to do. He called it the illusion, uh, the trigger fear response, fear of not fitting in, fear of not being belonging in your group or your peers. And he said something interesting, that what the generation thinks currently that everybody wants, the next group will personally believe it. It's interesting how that research came about. I didn't get to watch the whole program, but it's getting late and I have to do a podcast that I made myself think that, Mondays will be my podcast day. And so sticking with that, it is difficult when things come up and you're not ready to talk personally about things that matter in life. From my perspective, somebody may be struggling with fitting in, or uh, they are doing this and I decided not to. And so we say, well, you should try to fit in. No. I used to think that I needed to learn things that the other groups were doing to belong so that I can learn, because that was a survival thing. And it is difficult to choose personally a new day, to exercise your perception, to think on a personal level, not going with what everybody's saying, to choose for your own self. It takes time being alone, spending time with God, pardon me, and to reiterate what is important. What is it that you value? What does success mean to you? I've always had a hard time with thinking of what success meant, because success meaning in my village is different from what I face here in the city. It is different. And so those are my people. So when one time I was shocked, I was like, I went to visit my family, and their son said, "Oh, his son was raised in Oregon for a while, and he finally went up and got big enough to where he was preteen, to where he can spend time with his dad." And the thing that found interesting was the dad said, "He is like your son, Auntie Cindy." That's me. He acts like your son, Thomas, his cousin. And I go, "What?" And he said, "Yes, he's more in the western side than in our native tribe side." And I almost felt hurt. I almost. I had to stop myself and think, this is not a criticism. It is a trusting. I I presented myself as someone that he trusts to say something to, because his son did spend time with us and he enjoyed himself before he went up. And it was a little uh like, what? Here I am native, and he says I'm acting different. And I recall things that when people say you're native, you don't act native, you don't sound native, you're and so I've been at a loss thinking, okay, uh, how do I decide from that? And so I've been concentrating my YouTube channel on perception. How do I perceive today that God made as brand new? Do I bring my tribe with me? Do I bring my family with me? How do I go about believing? How do I bring my faith and belief to the fact that it is a new day? How would I bring, not from yesterday, what I normally do? I've recently lost my job. So there went that income and there went that preparation, the time, 8 hour shift, 10-hour shift, all that time. And all of a sudden, I'm by myself and I'm saying, I am creating a new, I've never done a business before. And so here I am learning this, and all the structure that I'm putting into this life, I've been focusing on how not to become entangled and not progress and become discouraged, and overall, for lack of anything, I would become discouraged and fall away, give up, not be committed as I thought I would be, and it is different than from what I'm used to. This adaptation for me, I have to process it, and thank goodness I have some journals that I have empty. I haven't been able to journal for years because I'm away from my familiar background. I'm away from the subsistence lifestyle. I'm away from mostly fish diet to now I used to crave salads every day when I was exercising and working out. I would go to the gym every day. And as I evolved and progressed, things that I valued changed. And when I went back for my sister's funeral and my niece's funerals and stuff, the atmosphere was different from when I was there last. I haven't been home in years. It was different. How did I change? Where did I change? Was it my choice, or did I, like the doctor was saying, adopt the community that I was in at the job? Did I adopt their way of doing and being and forget these things? So when I was coming back on the airplane ride, because these are life application skills, doing a new thing, presenting yourself, being something that you decide to choose that you will become. And then something comes along and you decided against it. And then you just go with the flow. And then all of a sudden you're finding yourself that, hey, I made the decision. Why did not I go through with it? And Dr. Todd was talking exactly that. How a person conforms to their peers, to their group, whatever group they're involved in. They have these messages, and this is frowned upon, and this is how you're supposed to do it. These things actually make you decide and go with the whole majority. It's interesting. I have to watch that podcast again. And it goes along the lines of what I'm trying to present to myself, introducing to myself to do a new thing, to be a new person in how I'm becoming, evolving in this new environment. And I've heard a lot about AI, how it will present a certain dialogue in order in manner, how it'll be more professional, and you can do your own podcast with that AI simile of yourself, and it will just you put in and all these little things, and it'll create one, and you don't have to talk. You don't have to go through all the wires and stuff. And I'm like, I just started and I got all my wires in place. But that's the joy of how you progress. Yes, it can be demanding, it can be overwhelming, and it can help you think that I don't know if I'm doing this correctly or if this is how everybody's doing it. Now, there's that majority illusion that he was talking about today. I was like amazed because it fits in perfectly with the subject matter that I have been trying to verbally internalize and project out to people saying, hey, can we perceive it correctly? Can we choose on purpose what we decide and stay committed to that? How would we as a whole not go along with that? Because we end up doing things that say, well, I did decide that I was going to work out, kind of like New Year's resolutions, and then by the end of the month, it's back to normal people that go to the gym. When I was going to the gym, it was like that. By the end of January, they started trickling, quit people quit going. At first, it was like full, hard to get to a machine or anything. And then by the end of the month, there was hardly anybody there. Then in the new year, they people have these ideas that this is, what we're supposed to do. This is how it's done. This is what is accepted, and this is, And I've been watching since I lost my job. I've been watching a lot of almost like um biographies or lifestyles of how back in World War II, I think, when Germany was attacking these countries and their ideas, and they were people, because people will wonder, how can you stand there and allow this to happen in your community, why did you not speak up? And why did you let it happen? Sorry. And it's along the same lines what he was talking about, conforming to the majority or to your group or your tribe or your ethnicity. This is how it's always been done, and that's how I am, and that's how I was raised. I can never change. So, the topic that sorry, I have chosen, and it's for the rest of the year, is choosing new day perception, how to create from that standpoint. It's an individual process. And as myself, as I'm progressing, this is something new that I'm doing. And I don't know anyone that has done it in my tribe, back home at work. I don't know anyone that was doing YouTube podcasts with self improvement, with how to incorporate into your life these new ideas of how you can be, how to raise your level of inner vision to the probability, to the idea that you can, from a standpoint that if you were raised, this is how it always is, this is how I'm told, I can never change, to where you can adapt to something that you desire. You want to become like this. You study and perform that which you choose. You may have seen it, but to personalize it, people like to hear personal success stories. They like to see that it is working, that it is the way to go. Again, that conformity that he was talking about, the illusion that people think this is success, this is how the majority is, and we can't rock the boat, so to speak. And they were talking about having certain dinners, like Fridays is Fish Friday. Holiday is this one always. Even though they did not like that dish, they say it goes with this meal, so we're having it this way, even though a lot of them didn't want it. Interesting. But yeah, it was waiting to conform, belong. We first decide, then change when our friend or colleague says they're doing it this way, and you go, oh, me too, I'll go. And it wasn't on your agenda, it wasn't a priority for the day, and so your plans change. I'm having that issue right now. He said it's corrupting what we chose. Corruption in our choice. The choices that we made initially, that we are willing to accomplish or do in our life. When we see a friend or somebody else or a relative saying, I am thinking of going here and here and here, and I'm doing this, and you go, oh, me too. The priorities are grounded in what? When I say truth, what is freedom for you? Some people say, I want to live on my own terms. Well, what are the terms? Is it the terms that you recognize that somebody said was this? This is the terms that they say is a successful term. And so you adopt that and say, that's my successful term also. And I'm going for that. And that is my own. That is a good question to initiate when you decide to do a different thing. Yes, it will create anxiety. Yes, it will create some mistakes made along the way. But when we correct that course, don't beat yourself up. I was beating myself up for not doing one on because I was sick. The family was sick. And I figured, well, just because I didn't do it, I'm just going to give up. No, I thought, hey, keep at it, keep doing. And if choosing is a boring topic for most, it is the first thing when we decide to live life fully. We have to train our mind, our perception to recognize. How do we recognize a new day? It's easy to see a new day from a perspective of a baby or a child. They are brand new and they grow up in their environment. Maybe, let's say, speaking a different language. They grow up in that environment and say that they conform to everything. They learned it this way, and so they say these things and grow. When when we believe things, we cannot, or we can't go do that because it'll create anxiety on my part. It'll make me feel so scared I can't do it. How would What words would describe a different opposite thing? I was watching another podcast with Mel Robbins. The lady was talking about purpose. Now, what was she so terribly scared of? The thing was, I built this and I didn't have income and close to bankruptcy or anything. And then I built a savings where I can be comfortable. And then you're going to do something stupid. You're going to end up doing something stupid. The lady goes, well, what if you changed that? Let's just say you're going to end up doing something stupid. Let's just say that to what is this? You're going to end up doing something brilliant. Words do matter. Who we surround ourselves do matter. The words we enlist into our lives, enlist, recruit, redeem, repent, bringing different words into our environment, introduction of new perceptions, new ideas. These are the ways that we first, it may take a month or two, but next year they'll go, something changed. What is it? They will recognize how that one word incorporated into your life and you actually doing the action change something in your demeanor and how you say or carry yourself and your becoming. It does change your outward appearance from inner work. That's why I like self improvement, inner work. The new ideas, the new terminology that you acquire, the language that you introduce into your life and your being, these are important. You're redeemed. You have this with God, precious time, living in the promises that He says you do. Believing is something that, what did He say? The next generation, when they see something and see it as it's something that's always done and they believe it, that is how belief comes in, I think, from the majority, from you going with the flow, and then your belief is this. So to change that belief to what God says, the new day is an introduction of that new promise that he says. And when something is new, yes, we will miss doing that thing the first day, the second day, the third day. And then one day for 15 minutes, you did that new thing for 15 minutes and then pretty soon an hour. It's kind of like when I quit smoking cigarettes. Pardon me. I said, well, for 15 minutes, I'll lay off. And so every hour, 15 minutes was added. Pretty soon it was a half hour. Pretty soon it was an hour. Gradually, it became half the day. What was half a pack, 3 days, became 2 weeks, a week. And pretty soon, progression is measured by your decision of progress. The goal is met. And when I talk about goals and dreams, are they in alignment with who you say God is in your life? Is He involved in my progress? I asked God, I was like, why am I struggling in this? And He showed me the illusion of majority perspective, the illusion of something that has been brought up to where the whole preemptive thing is that it is done this way and you can't, you have to do it this way. What if the tool that you have is for right-handed people and you're writing with your left hand and you're going, this is not working like you said. Well, hey, we have pens for left-handed people here. Or better case scenario, scissors. There's more scissors for right-handed people than there are for left-handed people. That scenario is what he was talking about, the illusion of majority. Learning how to decide for yourself. You'll have to learn not to be offended easily. You have to be quick to forgive. You have to pause and say, hey, the person said this. It was not meant for evil. But all of a sudden, I was thinking, I'm different from my family. I'm different from the majority. And I was going to get offended. And I said, no, was not meant to be that. I had to think differently. I had to pause and say, hmm, okay, that is different. I had become like those of who I spend most my time with. I would wonder why my sisters would be uncomfortable. They were doing things and I would, I didn't think anything of it until later. I was like, why did they not say anything? Communication is important between family, between yourself and God, between who you want to become. It is important how you think about yourself and what you say to yourself. Quiet the litany of disagreements in your head about who you want to be. Things like, you could never become that. You're not worthy. You don't have a degree. You never went to college. You never graduated. You never, you're too old. You're too fat. You're too skinny. You're too this and this and this. Those are illusions that we believe from the majority thinking that it's right. Be careful. Wide is the way, narrow is the gate to God's kingdom. That's how God says our mindset is. to believe that we can choose and that it is a new day, that we can become that we aspire. This is inner dialogue, mindset creating to where you want to automatically be. Like when somebody says, "Oh, I'm having this. Do you want that?" And and you say, no, I am doing this and this and this." And all of a sudden you set the standard, you created a structure, and you created a platform that you can stand on and be confident in who you are by repetitious practice. Practice, practice, practice. It'll come automatically and you'll say, "No, I'm doing this. Thank you, though." And you smile and you don't say it offensively. Like sometimes you'll go, "No, I, we're not that way." You become more forgiving and loving and you say, "No, I am doing this and this and this." And your presentation is not because you didn't get offended and you created to who you are and you want to be that and you love that. It comes off as non-offensive to the other, non-judgmental in your reaction to them saying that. "Hey, we don't do that. Though we are not that way people." And they go, "What? Oh, we're from Canada. We say, hey." Lear- Learn to be comfortable in who you are. Your gifts are different. Somebody may have the big old line of people that are like them there at the party and they're saying, "Oh, they're so good." And then you have your kind of people that say you have these different gifts and you didn't bring anyone because you didn't need that. You have the grace to be an overcomer, to be the opinions of others. Really, it rolls off because you have the understanding in you that says, "Hmm, let them. That's okay. Quite all right." You have to love yourself, love your neighbor as yourself. I remember when I used to say, I was teaching myself and I complained a lot in my head. I had to learn to not complain. And I'm still working on that, by the way. Oh no, I'm going to start coughing. Oh, I'm at home alone. I was going to cough through my shirt. When I'm out in public. I've learned to cough. Pardon me. But back to aligning yourself with your truth, with God. And just because somebody else have a different gift than you, like they have the gift of hospitality, pardon me, and then you have the gift of organizing, administering, which is different from their party. They can party. You're comfortable behind the scenes on your desk doing behind the scenes. Those are different gifts. Just because the majority is saying that they are so much better than you, dear, does not mean that you can quickly rise up and say it. It doesn't mean but what you believe. Be it unto you as you believe, Jesus says. So we have to adjust our perception, so to speak. The perception is something that God says, can you not perceive it? Meaning that it is new. You have to open and not bring back yesterday's language, yesterday's words, yesterday's litany of saying we're this way, and we don't do it that way. Be strengthened by joy in the manner where you bring your joy into the day, saying, I shall rejoice. I shall be glad in today. God made this new day. These are the strength habits that you incorporate, the mindset that you incorporate into yourself, that when you're happy and somebody says something, you're more apt to brush it off because you're so excited. You're so happy. So when you bring gladness, good report, what is pure, what is holy into your thinking pattern for the whole month of October, I think I was saying choose. It's a new day because it does take about a month, 2 months to fully be clothed in that. It's easy to put on a garment and then fling it away when you agree with somebody else. Oh, yeah, that's not the trendy coat. When you looked at it in the morning, it was so beautiful and you loved it. And it brought back good memories and you feel good about it. And then somebody comes along, what? That color doesn't match you. All of a sudden, it didn't match and it's ugly. The truth is, when you decide, when you make decisions, and you stand your ground in who you are and what you've made that decision on, it creates a satisfaction within your being that you are who God says you are, gifted, beloved in all ways that He says you're gifted to the work that I have planned for you. You'll have good success. Believe that and start realizing the words you say to yourself become your belief system in months. And a year goes by, and all of a sudden, people say, gee, you're so successful and so well in what you're doing. And it took you how long? They did not see the progression of day to day, month and month of doing that same thing, that same practice. So I am learning to choose independent of the majority of what the truth they say, the truth from what God says is, and standing on that, creating a platform, choosing to believe that it is a new day, that it is something, and I'm learning to do that in my life. And pretty soon it's comfortable for me to open up my heart and say, hmm, say that again. Let me write that down. Interesting. Wow. Rather than, that's not how it's done around here. No, that's not how we are. That's not how success looks like. No, it actually makes you perceive things and become better at discerning, creating structure, becoming more disciplined. And as you grow in that position of who you chose, it takes little steps. Don't despise small beginnings. Even though it may seem simple or boring, tedious. It is tedious to do laundry, but once it's done, there is satisfaction. Nice clean clothes, nice clean bedding. And some people say when I go to the gym and I didn't want to go to the gym hour later, there's that feeling. It is a good feeling that you presented to yourself, a present, now is. I have thought and prayed over it, and I have asked God, and it's peaceful. I have decided this and this and this, and God said, yes, that's the way I've been pointing for you all this time. How long will it take you to decide these things that you have choice? How long will it take for you to realize that God has a plan for you for your good and good success? And it starts with believing that He made a brand new day. You get to choose life, what brings you life, what God says is life to you and those around you is good and good success. What is pure, what is holy, what to think on as you progress. Yes, you'll fall back, make one step forward, two steps back, but pretty soon you take two steps forward, one step back. Yes, what they call the flow, the flex. And that's why people say, change the goal, but not the dream. Don't give up. Keep persisting and keep going in the direction that is life for you. Yes, it may be different than from your sibling, from your tribe, from your community, from your state. But if it's a good thing, it will bring into that environment what God presents. Your introduction of who you are, believing this new day and making choices that pertain to life for you, what God says is you, it brings joy to another. That's why people say when you have grandchildren, they are a joy. Each of them is a joy. And I think I know why they say that. And when you have your own child, nobody can replace that child. They are who they are. So are you in God's eye. You are precious. He made you. He knows you and He formed you in the womb. He knew you before you even formed. These things, He says, choose. If He didn't say choose, you're going to be this and this. The trees can't choose something else. They're always going to be a tree. But you, He says, choose. It is something that can be difficult to do in trials, temptations. It's like, ugh, I don't want to choose. One of the skills that I had a hard time with was decision making. That basically is choosing. So I studied it for I forget how long it was now, 3, 4, 6 months, 3 months. All of a sudden, it was easy for me to make choices. Oh, I can make that choice because it's a skill. You have to learn that to decide. You can, once you make that decision, you can modify it, adjust it, change it even, repent. That way does not work. What did Einstein say? I found a thousand ways how not to do that. But see, he did a successful thing after 1,001, say. Yes, it will take time. Psalm 118:24. This is the day the Lord hath made. We shall rejoice in it. Rejoicing, joy, when you bring that into your day, it sets a foundation that brings health, energy, into your environment to wherever you are, it shifts the atmosphere because you chose. Time does pass. Next year will be 2026, 2 more months. 2025 will no longer be something that we write on our calendar, 2025. It will now be 2026 soon. Time will tell, they say, what you have been studying and what you have been doing. If you've been eating a lot of sugar, time will tell. If you have been lacking sleep, worry has been part of your program, you have not changed. Some of the things that are setbacks may be a setup. Yes, when you're learning something, it takes longer. The bills are piling higher. And when is this going? It takes trust in the process. But the process is different than what I'm, yes, learning to proceed in an activity. If you don't have the joy of learning something new, you will think other things. Oh, I will look stupid. I will. And then all of a sudden you'll stop and you'll quit and you'll go a different way. But when you bring a different mindset, a different word, different life that you chose, and you bring your joy with it, it's a lot easier to do that with love, joy, hopeful expectation. That language that you present to yourself initially, why? That's why it's important for you to set aside time. What is the truth and value in this? Is it in alignment with who you want to be? That choice is precious. It is. Learn to decide, learn to choose, learn to give yourself the opportunity to say, it's a new day. Sometimes we will lose a whole day. I lost everything this day and da 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 da. Nothing happened right and this and that. Yes, we stumble. Yes, we give in. We they call it cheat day when one time they said, "What? What's a cheat day? Oh, today's I can have all the sugar I want." I'm like, "What? But you worked so hard." Well, that's what they called it. I tried it and I was like, "This is not working." So I just forget it. Yes, there will be days when we practice the wrong thing. But the ability to be in the here and now and to look back and laugh, I can't believe I used to do it that way. Now I know a better way, a better way of processing things, better way of deciding, better way of choosing, better way of. I like that quote by one lady where she said, "Do your best every day until you know better, then do better." That is pretty neat. The progress of trials and temptations. Because when you make that decision, of course, you'll want to fall back, do the same thing you've always done, go to the same movies you've always had, go to the same route, stay in that community. Yes, it is good. They call it faithful. They're just always faithful. They are called to be faithful. What if your calling is different? To bring to somebody, say, it's okay if you fall 7 times, come back up 8. Old Chinese proverb, I think. But there is joy in life, even when times seem to be against you. Like, this is not working. This is not evolving the way I pictured. Well, what was your picture? Sooner or later, the picture that you put up on the wall to say, that's where I'm going, that's where I want to be, this is what I want to look like. One day you'll wake up, somebody said this, and they described what you were watching at that picture, and they'll say, You were this and this and this." And I go, I did it. I was remembering Teresa Malfoy saying that she was telling herself in her affirmations, in her language, she gave herself pep talk, and she said, I am knowledgeable. I have this knowledge. And she kept saying, and that I will be in this section where I am knowledgeable. And one day they were seating her, and that person said, You are knowledgeable. That's why you're here. And she's like, that was like an epiphany. And she said, I'm not the kind that people look to for, what did they call, like a doctor, professional, or learned, or some people say when I was working, 7-Eleven theologian, Facebook theologian, or social media theologian, or those kind of things. They go, and you're wondering, where did I miss the mark? God? And that is a sin. So, and you're like, oh my gosh, I sinned. And what he's saying is, do not despise small beginnings. What he means is, go for it. And if you start small in increments and you get there, it's okay. And when you fall, get back up. Shake the dust off your feet, iron that dress, go at it again. Because someday there will come a time when somebody will affirm, congratulate, and say, I can't believe you becoming that. You became more than I. Wow, that's so neat what you're doing. Where does that come from? It is from you behind the scenes doing the work, inner work, because you pictured it and chose, and thinking it's a new day. This is how you evolve, by practice, by learning, by correcting, and not giving up. Keeping the vision right before you, learning the language, becoming. It is a beautiful thing. And this is the year of the word thing for myself. When you learn to perceive properly in this manner of choosing, it's a new day, of doing something new into your life, the possibility becomes, it was impossible, it becomes even more possible as you keep going, as you keep growing, and suddenly, as if suddenly it appears how God says, don't worry how the little shoot grows, how it grows underneath the ground. I have covered you, he says. I have kept you. He keeps you. Why? Because sometimes when we're learning something new, we're more apt to go, "Oh," hurt when somebody says, You're awful. You don't fit that. You can never be that. We're vulnerable at those stages, and we're more apt to miss the mark and forget the whole thing. I'm not doing that. I decided it was wrong. It's not for me. When we persist, pardon me, learn, it initially looks bad. It looks really something that, and then when you evolve from practice, from beginning, from all of a sudden, kind of like learning to dance. I am not very good at dancing, but learning some steps. You can learn one step, and that's all you know. And you can do it better gracefully in the long run, but that's all you know. And you didn't progress, and that's all you can tell. You didn't progress. You gave up on that. Yes, it's okay. It's not for me. But bring joy, rejoice, Psalm 118. And the other thing is, when you set a standard, it matters because when you're conforming, and they say it will take this long, this long, this long, it will take this many steps to get there. Some people do the parable of the uh, the hour, the first shall be last, the last shall be first. In the parable, it says the guys were hired at 9 a.m. and they were paid this much. And then he went out and hired people at noon and they were paid the same amount. And then these guys were hired at 3 and the job gets done at 3:30 and they were paid the same amount. They're like, "What? We slaved in the hot sun all day for this price?" And the guy said, "You agreed to that." It is in our agreements then. What we perceive to be truth, what we believe, if we can get it faster, it depends on what we have given ourselves terms to agree on. Some people graduate in 2 years, some people graduate in 4 years. Kind of like that parable where the guy hired workers to work his vineyard. Some people he hired 9 a.m., noon, 3:30, or 3 o'clock, and they all got paid the same. And they say, well, it took us longer. That's what you agreed to. There was a book by, uh, uh, he does business. Why don't you do this 10 times? Why don't you make this? Instead of going for here, why don't you go for there? And there was a thing that said, the lady was presented with this. She says, I want to hire you. I want to make 2 million in my business. And the guy was excited. He said, yes. And then his face, his countenance fell. It talks about countenance in the Bible. My daughter was telling me, my countenance fell. And God talks about that. His countenance fell. You could tell when somebody's countenance falls. And she said, your thing will be 1.5 million. You'll be making that. And so he was like, and she could tell, that's why people conform to the majority because they see the reactions, and they're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But she said, well, and he was hesitating. He didn't realize that he was thinking that 2 million was for him and not for the whole business. And then she says, well, what if I raise that and you get the 2 million and I get the 3 and we 10 times that or something. And she was presented that in a question and she goes, what? I can go for that? Really? If I make that. But if I make that goal, I know one person will be very excited and they will be excited to go to work and do that. But there is one person that will not even be excited and he'll probably quit. That is their belief level, their perception in how they are. The belief that God says it this way, Jesus said it this way. He says, be it unto you as you believe. So that's their belief level. How do we raise that ceiling? Do we have the courage to do something new? Do we have the courage to face this day as new? Do we have the courage to present to ourselves an opportunity and we can say, let's do it? Or, yes. What makes you excited and go, yes? It is the, I think, the conformity, how we have been programming ourselves. That programming is the mindset that I talk about. How to present this new day as new, forgetting those things that are behind, bringing into focus what is new, not thinking of traditionally this is how we've always done it, and this is how as a native that we do it. This is how as a college education says we do it. New ideas are just merely that. It's simple. If you take it as a word that it is, a new day. Let us rejoice, be glad in it, that we have this new day where God says, can you not perceive? Let's raise our perception. Let's raise our ability to make decisions. Let's raise our ability to say, talk to yourself this way, God says. Sing in psalms and hymns. People have envisioned. If you don't have money, imagine, envision. You start by that simple. Well, I don't look at pictures, envision. God will show you glorious things. I was watching Ed Milet one day, and he said that the guy was walking on Malibu Beach, and he saw all these huge mansions and everything, and he says, "Oh, I can't imagine myself living in something like that." Wow! And then inside him, he heard to say, "Don't worry about it. Never will." So worry and imagining, envisioning are just merely pictures, ideas that we can present to ourselves. Erase, start with a new page. Where's my camera? New page. This is from yesterday. This is for today. New day. Where am I? Where am I going? Creating is your choice. Doing is your choice. Believing is your choice. Perceiving is up to you. To believe God at His word. I like to say, if you say you're a Christian, you believe God, and then you act a certain way, people will go, I thought they said they were Christian. They were. And then they go, well, I went with that person, and that person made me do this and this and this. Well, I went to this and I wasn't given a choice. Well, I was, you know, when you're born, they say that's in my DNA. When science is looking at DNA or at the cellular level, they have found out that a cell at its very nucleus or its very foundation is absolutely nothing. And when somebody looks at it, a dot forms. A DNA forms to make a ear, nose, or anything. There's no set DNA in it. These are learned things that we believe and we become. There was, I was watching a show and it said that uh, there was an inmate on death row and they were going to, you know, terminate him. And the doctor did a study and he goes, "Can we do this and this and this?" And the inmate says, "Sure, he's going to die." And so they said, "We're going to cut and your blood is going to drip." And so what they did was they got a bag next to him and he couldn't see it. And it sounded like blood from his arm dripping into the can, drip, drip. And he slowly started dying. And here it was water. And he thought it was his blood dripping out. And that's what he believed, and he died. That is such an opposite. Choose life. And then some people say when people are hypnotized, they act this and this and this as they believe. Some people say when he was hypnotized and they did a study and he spoke in a certain way, he spoke in a certain way, couldn't speak any other way, or he had allergies or something burned him and it looked like it burned his skin. His skin actually showed burn marks. So it's important to hone your skill of choosing a good report, what is pure, what is holy, what to believe in. These are important, how you create your environment, the terms, the language, the perception is important. Just because somebody else says that this is how they do it doesn't mean that they do it the right hand way and you're left handed, doesn't mean that you're going to come out the same way, but the end result is the same. Doesn't mean either of you are right or wrong. It just means that your choices is something that you can change. I have been this way and I decided. And some people say, well, I'm going to quit this and this and this. Do it like it says, don't despise small beginnings. Do it literally by small beginnings. And so I'm doing my podcast, Small Beginnings. I'm doing a new day, choosing a perception. And it's so much language that is presented to you in that arena. So many stories of how it can be a new day. So many analogies, so many experiences of how you can think differently about who you are, where you're going, and how to go about doing it. Because some people say, "Oh, I dress this way, I put on my socks on before I put my pants on." Some people say, "I have to put my pants on before I put my socks on." Things are learned and they are your choice and they are neither right or wrong. They just are. And so the same it is with learning how to bring purpose into your life by joy, by peace, what is pure, what is holy, what is a good report, learning and not being offended by the failure you experienced in the temptation and trial today. You fell back two steps and you had one foot forward and you fell two steps back. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of you, your decision of who you want to be. It is something that you learn and go, oh, I'm not doing that again. These are ideas presented to you and that you stick to and say, this is the way that God says I am to go. Where's my camera? I got a candle to say, be the light. Today is light day. It's Monday. And so it's something that I wanted to present to myself to say, be light today. Be a light. Somebody may need to hear something that will trigger them to continue, to begin, to end something. It's to do anything new. Something has ended. Yes, when you make room for your closet, you give all your clothes away. Guess what? You have to buy new clothes. They may not be new, they may be used, but they're new to you. Those kind of things. You'll have a closet full of new clothes. And so it is when something is beginning, something has ended, or something is has been successfully executed and you're on to the next. Maybe the next door, maybe a new house, maybe a new city, a new country, a new baby, new marriage, new divorce, anything. I find that in my lifetime journey, when I am working, I found that I started a job where I was working and they were moving to a new place. I ended the old place and moved to the other. And then I quit. And then I went back and I found out that they're reopening the old one again and they're a new day. So I was there, I was like, And then it ended. Then I stopped again. And then when I went back again, they said, we're moving to a new building and we're closing this old building. And again, I was there. I was like, why is it, God, that you're always bringing me to a new beginning and a new ending every time? And my last job, it was interesting. But that intrigued me into thinking, okay, what is the verse? And God showed me, behold, I have made a new day. Can you not perceive it? And I thought, okay, well, there's something in that that is manifesting in my life. Okay, I'll focus on that for my first topic. And I've experienced it in my life in that manner. And I thought, that's interesting. And now that I decided to do a home business on my own, AI comes along and I wanted to do computers. And I'm like, what? I was like, huh, interesting. And then somebody said, AI scares me and stuff like that. And I go, all it is something that is based on what you continually do. So if you want change, if you're allocating yourself to be this much from here, you're allocating asset, you're allocating your personal self, you're allocating your personality, you're allocating something to a new environment, into a project that you first have to perceive correctly. And to do correctly means that you will fail here and there. Don't be offended. Learn to forgive, learn to love yourself. Forgiveness is something that you learn by decision. You learn to decide. These things are how you go about to continue in the journey. That is amazing, to persist, to be faithful, to trust, to have joy. That is something that we can decide on in our journey of our life. And I want to thank you for staying with me till the end. I hope you have a good day. I went an hour and a half. I apologize. I normally do 30 minutes, but it's a new month. It's a new way of looking at things. We're coming into a season of celebration. I hope that in the next coming months that you prepare for the next year with these new ideas of how you're becoming and incorporating, because it does take time to become, to realize. Some people say all of a sudden you're different. There will be a different posture, there will be a difference. They'll say you're different. Embrace that as a value because it's a new day. The Japanese has a saying, kaizen. It's an improvement to change. Have a good night. Have a great day. I'll see you Wednesday.